most people rely too much on what other people think and not enough about their own self-belief.
I'm Jessie, a sustainability consultant coach, and in today's video I am joined by Briony, a sustainability leadership coach who are focused on driving cultural change inside businesses. I know that one of the main areas that you focus on is the challenge of being able to thrive when people are speaking their mind and doing so without fear.
Yeah, fear is a big and really interesting challenge, because when you think about it, fear's everywhere. It's like fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of not getting it right, fear of none of us getting it right. There's so many fears going on, especially around this topic. And when you stop and think about it, it's not the action that's the problem. It's not the using your voice in a meeting. It's not the presentation. It's not the putting the business case towards your boss or your board. It's not that action. It's the feeling of discomfort that goes along with it. So when we're afraid, we get sensations in the body, emotion, and it's literally just energy running through the body, emotion. That feeling and that sensation, we attach meaning to it. So we attach that sensation, meaning I'm afraid, I don't want to do that. This feels uncomfortable. I don't like feeling this way. It's actually this feeling that starts to push us away from, it keeps us safe, you know? It's more about a protection mechanism than something that pushes us forward. And when we start to understand these feelings and sensations, rather than being something really uncomfortable that we don't want to have, that's when we can start to do something about it. So I think the biggest thing about fear is, if you notice it, if you kind of get aware of oh, this feels really uncomfortable, I don't want to do this thing, it's like starting to get curious about it. And curiosity puts us in a completely different headspace. We all know that fear is associated with fight, flight and freeze, and that cortisol and the narrowing and the tunnel vision for a reason. It's like focus on the threat. But actually curiosity, we can't get into curious mode when we're in fear state. It's the opposite. It opens our minds. We start to be in this sort of space of what if and possibility and problem solving. And it's a really interesting approach. If you can learn to look at fear with curiosity, it actually helps you move through the discomfort and into that space of course I can do this. And okay, so something bad might happen. I might get a no, but at least I know, or at least I know how to approach things next. So it starts to put us in a different frame of mind that's more sort of amenable to what we're trying to achieve.
Could you give a contextualized example for, I'm going into work and I might fear that I have to present a route map for a strategy I've been working on, and I already have a skeptical leadership team. My fear, if I'm hearing it right, is that I anticipate their reaction. And that actually, more than the presentation, feels really, really overwhelming because I poured my heart and soul into this.
First thing, and I love the fact that you picked up on this anticipation, because we're always predicting things. And we predict that it's going to go badly, so we feel like it's already happened almost, which kind of makes it a bit worse. But in that situation, it's really important to be aware of how you're feeling, with compassion. Do you know, it's not like criticizing yourself for saying, do you know, why are you feeling like this? It's really valuable to have a sort of open perspective on this, and you can start to use techniques like reframing. So it's a really simple approach of being aware of what's going on, what's the physical discomfort, what's happening, why am I feeling this? How frequently am I feeling this? What story am I attaching to this? So we're attaching this narrative that this isn't going to work. It's not helpful going into something because we're already going in with this sort of defeatist energy. So then we start to think about, well, what impact is this going to have? Well, I'm nervous. I'm probably not going to get all my points across. I'm probably not going to come in with this perception that I'm in control and I can handle all of this because I'm feeling a bit meek and scared. So as all of this is sort of building into this limiting belief. So what we have to do is recognise that that's a big part of this process and use a reframe to change the situation. So rather than they're going to say no, they're going to hate this, you could change it to something like, maybe I need to be more explorative with this. Maybe I need to ask more questions. Maybe I need to understand how they're feeling to then do the next part of my plan. But it's stop putting all the eggs in this big stakeholder board meeting where you've just got the yes, no answer is the do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about looking at it as one part of the journey. And I think what scares us a lot with sustainability is that we have to get all these people from here to here, which is like closed and resistant to change and into I'm totally on board with this and I'm helping you run the plan. But we try and jump it. And actually what we need to do is understand where people are, meet them, and help them change one little step. And it's that reframe that it's one step at a time that can be so powerful to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves.
It's almost like you're creating this self-fulfilling prophecy in the process, right?
Yeah.
Because of all of these pressures, then even the presentation goes wrong. And like, you were good at presentations in the first place, but because you're so scared of what might happen, then it's ruining the good bit.
Yeah, it is. But also, like, you have to look at it from this other side as well. It might go wrong. You might get a no, but that's also okay.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. And have this sort of flexible approach to this is one stop. This is one touch point.
Yeah.
And then where do I move on to next? But I can't move on until I have this information.
Yeah.
So it's not a kind of the doors closed, the doors open. It's a kind of we're just figuring out which key to put in the lock.
Yeah. I like as well that you're almost like framing it as a journey that you're on, right? It's like you're not getting to the end in the beginning. You're working your way towards that. And I think as sustainability professionals, we're under such immense pressures. Like every day when you open the news, it's like we have a timeline.
Yeah.
And I think we're putting that timeline on ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we're bringing that to work with like anxiety and lots of things around us. And we become this like storm of influence.
Yeah. And I think that's really being able to zoom in and zoom out of what's going on is a really important sort of tool for this work, because we obviously need the big picture because this is the reason why we're doing this. So we need it to fuel us and to understand what the kind of unintended consequences and all the kind of interconnected impacts are. But then we need to be able to zoom back down to the practical and go, what can I physically do in my role, in my business, in my sphere of influence? And it's not going to be fix the big global problem, but we sort of put that pressure on ourselves to be fixing that. So I think sometimes our confidence comes from just having a reality check on what can I actually solve, and what are the small steps that I can do to move in that direction? Let's get going, and then just keep checking what you're doing and watching and recognising your own progress along the way. And it's amazing how quickly you'll start to go, oh, look at what I'm doing. I'm doing it already,
I love that. One of the things I say to my clients when I do my coaching practice is reframing things, because so often they overestimate the risk of what it is that they're doing, but actually in that equation underestimating their own capability of getting out of problems.
Yeah. And I think underestimation, not feeling worthy, feeling like a bit of a fraud. Confidence is a skill set and it's a practice. It's something you can learn, and it's something that like is kind of a little bit akin to going to the gym. The first time you go, it's probably going to be hard work and really uncomfortable, and you're going to be looking around going, what's everyone think of me? But the more you go, the regular, the routine, the more that you see the progress, the more that you build confidence. So you have that mindset shift in the first place that, okay, well, I don't feel very confident now, but I can be. And it's something that we need to keep working at. We don't just do it once and suddenly we're like, pa-dam, we're confident. It's something that we need to build into our daily lives, a practice of believing in ourselves and who we are.
Can you give me an example if I want to build this in my work tomorrow?
Yeah, for sure. And I've actually got a practice that I can kind of share with your listeners on this. One of the things we need to do is just really recognise our own progress. So I think sometimes when you look at sustainability, we have our programme goals, the business goals, the change we want to make in the industry, and then the global problem that we see as well. And we're often looking at the thing that we're doing here and seeing how much progress we make to this big global goal over there. And it feels like such a gap that actually the simplest thing we can do is just break it down into smaller goals. It's not about going to my boss and going, can I have an extra 10K for my program? Because that's a big ask often for us. It's about going to my boss and understanding a little bit more about their priorities, their challenges at the moment, and seeing how I can build sustainability into that. So the first goal is often like connection or building trust rather than going in for the big thing. So the more that we can break down what we're trying to achieve, the easier it is, and the easier it is to see that progress.
Yeah, I suppose it gives you some wins as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes self-fulfilling then.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this, definitely about self-fulfilling, but there's a really interesting study that was done recently on kind of what we think. Like our brains are full of thoughts all the time. And I think they worked out, don't know how they did it, but in this study they worked out that the average person has between like something like 12,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. So our thoughts are like buzzing around all the time. And the average person, the percentage of your thoughts, 80% negative. So 80% of the things that are buzzing around our head are thinking that we can't do that it's not possible, that it's not us. So not only have we only got 20% in the possible, 95% of the things we think are also repetitive. So this swarm of, that's not me, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, just keeps going round and round and round in a cycle. And it's not that we want to be in a space where we just think happy thoughts. You know, we're not trying to do that. But what we do want is a good balance. We want an objective balance. So I want at least 50% positive, at least 50% opportunist. So it's about putting in a practice of training your brain in how you think. And you have to be aware of how you think. But we can put these little practices in to sort of shift the balance and make our brain focus on the positive. And yeah, I can definitely draw. There's a 1-minute coaching practice that I give to a lot of my clients. It's on my website. I can drop the link in there.
Yeah, I can drop the link in the comments for everybody.
Yeah. And it's a really easy thing to do, and it's something that you can just spend one minute on every day and start to like use that brain training.
That's so exciting. Is it something you've done for a long time, and is it a part of your daily routine?
It is something that I was actually taught by one of my first coaches, and it's something that I still use today. And not always every day, but often now I do it as a bigger weekly practice. So you start off by training it in these, like you do it a little bit more intensively when you're trying to build the habit. But as soon as you start building the habit, you recognise that your thought patterns are shifting anyway. So you don't need to put that much effort into thinking about the positive or the opportunity because you've already trained that neural pathway. Our brain goes on the path of least resistance. So if it's already tending to think in the what might be, what could be, that's the direction it's going to go in.
It's a matter of rewiring some of the connections we have into new, healthier connections.
Yeah, exactly. It's just about kind of re-steering the boat. It's difficult to turn it to start with, and then once you're going in the right direction, then you start sailing in that away.
So actually, in my coaching practice, one of the things I often talk to my clients about is reframing how they think about their own value in the system. So they very much tend to overestimate the risk of doing something and then underestimate what they can do in a certain situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And as soon as we start to feel a bit of fear, the task gets blown out of proportion. Do you know, it feels like this huge daunting task, and if you take the emotion away from it, it's actually a few steps forward. But often, we do underestimate and undervalue and undersell ourselves. And I think one of the most important things here is to have a really good support network. And whether that's in your company or your peers outside of work or friends or family, and talk about these problems and have that ability to sort of chew the fat and say, am I being unreasonable? What have you done here? And sharing and having that opportunity to, I don't know, we all say we're in this together in sustainability, don't we? And we really need to be. And if you're trying to do this on your own, it's so lonely and exhausting, and you really need that sort of network. And something that I talk about a lot is that we need space to grow. And we're often running at 100 miles an hour, head down, stuck in overwhelm, stuck in delivery mode, and we've got no time to kind of get our head above the trees and just take that moment. And you really need to be able to create these spaces, whether it's in an accelerator, whether it's on your own, whether it's in a coaching session, you know, create these spaces so you can like give yourself a bit of room so you can grow.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just on the hamster wheel continuously.
Yep.
And it feels difficult to create that space when we're so busy, but you can't move forward without it. So it really is a sort of chicken and egg thing, but you've got to bite the bullet, find the space however you do it, and then use that space for yourself rather than for everyone else.
So if people want to know more about what you do and potentially want to work with you, where can they find you?
Probably best place is on LinkedIn. I'm on there most of the time, and I post a lot about what I do and share tips and ideas like we've been listening to today. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm sure
I'll put a link in the comments below as always.
Put a link in the comments below and just connect with me and send me a message.
Yep. Thank you so much for following along today. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.